Good morning to you, and welcome back to Bible Break, where we see Jacob um, agonizing, really, I suppose, over this long anticipated reunion with his estranged brother Esau. Um, we're in Genesis chapter 32 rather. Genesis 32, reading from verse 13 down to the end of the chapter, which is verse 32. So Genesis 32, 13 to 32, we'll get there in the end. I think we better start the reading. I'm reading from the NIV as usual. Here we go. So he, that is Jacob, spent the night there, and from what he had with him, he selected a gift for his brother Esau, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows, and 10 bulls and 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He put them in the care of his servants, each herd by itself, and said to his servants, "Go ahead of me and keep some space between the herds." He instructed the one in the lead, "When my brother Esau meets you and asks, 'To whom do you belong and where are you going and who owns all these animals in front of you?' Then you are to say, 'They belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau, and he is coming behind us.'" So we've got the deference, which Jacob, again, we saw this in our last reading, which Jacob is paying towards his brother. And the gift, of course, is quite a substantial gift that he is offering him with the cattle. So Jacob also instructed the second, the third, and the others who followed the herds, "You are to say the same thing to Esau when you meet him. And be sure to say, 'Your servant Jacob is coming behind us.' For he thought, 'I will pacify him with these gifts I'm sending on ahead. Later when I see him, perhaps he will receive me.' So Jacob's gifts went on ahead of him, but he himself spent the night in the camp." So the gifts are going ahead to pacify his brother, and he's hoping that they will work. That night Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 maidservants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Well, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have overcome." Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It's because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. So far from riding off into the sunset, he was limping off into the sunrise. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. So this story is given by way of explanation of a long-standing Israelite tradition, or the long-standing Israelite tradition refers back to the story. Either way, there it is, a very strange encounter which Jacob has. But once again, the significant thing to really get a hold of in and through all this is that Jacob does have these encounters with God. And that God does come to Jacob. And that God reveals himself to Jacob in and through these encounters. That is the thing that which we are so inclined to overlook as we consider the, pilgrimage, the spiritual journey of these great men in the Bible, that the principal actor all along is God. When Jacob is down, leaving his family and heading towards his uncle, God meets him in Bethel. When Jacob is preparing to meet Esau, he has the visit at the beginning of the chapter, which we read, our last reading. He has the visit from the angels. And now, when he finds himself all along, because he's divided the camps so that if there is any trouble, at least, the group that isn't with him, presumably, in which would be his wife and children, they are the ones that'll get away. But that leaves him alone, once again. And in his solitude, he wrestles with God, we are told. That's the subheading in my NIV. But it's referring, of course, to this very strange encounter with this man who appears out of the blue, with whom he wrestles. And this story has long been taken, not necessarily not to be a real story. All the indications are that there was something quite physical going on here. With Jacob's wrestling. I don't suppose that he would have been injured in the way that he was, unless, as I say, this is the tradition explains everything. But the point is this: that the wrestling is real, the struggle is real, and whether it is. Just in prayer. I mean, just to say that, you know what I mean? Whether it is just in prayer or whether it is a real physical struggle. The fact of the matter is that it is just in prayer, if you like, because the whole point is that Jacob seems to know who and what it is that he is up against in this struggle. But he also knows, just as he was so keen and so eager to get the blessing and the birthright that belonged to his brother, he knows that it is God and God's representative, if you like, here, who has the power to bless him here in his hour of need. And so when the strange aggressive visitor senses that he's losing and says to Jacob, let me know because, or let me go rather, because daylight's coming. Well, Jacob didn't think he was a vampire. Jacob knew that he was wrestling with God and ultimately in prayer. And Jacob's reply to the visitor when the man says to him, let me go, is no. I won't let you go, and I will only let you go when you bless me. I will not let you go until you do bless me. So once again, we have a picture of how seriously Jacob takes the blessing that can be afforded only by God, and how seriously he takes whatever it might take in order to get it. And I think this is such an important thing to grasp, really. I certainly wouldn't nowhere near claim to have grasped it during the course of my life. And I think that there is a bit of a tendency, or there's been a tendency in the church and amongst Christians, to emphasize the generosity and the goodness and the grace of God, which of course cannot be overemphasized, but there's been a tendency to emphasize and focus upon these things to the extent of perhaps neglecting or downplaying, ignoring, those might be the right words, the effort which God requires and demands of us, as evidenced here, to lay hold of the blessing and lay hold of the good things which he has promised us and which he is so ready to give us, but which he does nonetheless expect us to fight for, and even fight him in the sense of we are to feel ourselves free to contest with him and argue with him and keep on at him until we get hold of the blessing. That to me is the amazing truth of the story of Jacob wrestling with the angel, as it's often been called, although he's called a man in the story, and it's as if God does reveal himself to Jacob in and through this man. But the amazing thing is that God shows that, in a sense, when it comes to the fight, when it comes to the struggle that we are to undertake in prayer, he is quite prepared to give in and lose and grant us what we are asking for, so long as we are prepared to put up the fight and show how serious we are about what it is that we are actually asking for and seeking him for. That is the amazing and wonderful truth about God as he has revealed himself in his word, and revealed himself to men and shown to us how this works and how this can work itself out. His relationship with mere mortals like Jacob and like ourselves. So, what a thing to dwell upon, and indeed, I would say to act upon and pray upon, of course. And I leave you with it, and see you next time.